Ancient technology comments. I see this comment a lot, especially when I'm in comment sections of ancient history. I keep seeing over and over again a couple of the same comments that always annoy me, especially when I have the answers. So, for example, the idea of no one knows how the Great Pyramid or the pyramids were built. It's like a lot of people do know because there's a simple idea of a whole bunch of rocks were stacked on top of each other to create the shape of a pyramid. That's how. But then some people will be like, but the blocks are big and heavy. Yeah, which means they had to have created a method to allow them to move those blocks around. Now, from my experience of moving heavy objects, it's easier to pull something, right? It's easier to push something or pull it than it is to lift it. Because gravity is stronger vertically than it is horizontally. This is why, a car which weighs 2 tons, that's 4,000 pounds, can move forward and backwards relatively easy, right? On wheels and stuff. And the wheels are made of rubber and soft and all that extra stuff. But anyway, so how can we move 4 tons with 4 rubber tires, just filled with air, by the way? So they're not solid rubber tires, they're filled with air, and you're able to move them forward and backwards. But when you have to lift up the 4-ton car, it's a lot harder, and that's where a crane comes in. Have you ever pushed a car? Like have a scenario where somebody's in the front seat, driver's seat, right? And you're in the back pushing the car? I know I have, because I've had to do that for my mother a couple times. When I was younger, I had to push the car. So I was able to push 4 tons. So that proves that pushing heavy blocks is easy, and pulling heavy blocks is easy. Now, lifting, yes, that I agree, is tougher because of gravity. But all you would need is a force that can lift it. And you can lift 50 tons. I'm going to tell you, here's the secret, with 50 tons. Now, you can't do it with less, but that's where levers and pulley system comes into play. And we know for a fact the ancient Egyptians, for example, had pulleys. We found some of their pulleys. They're in the museums now. So there's evidence of they had pulleys, which I've been new, but we needed the proof, and now we have the proof. So if they had pulleys, then that means they had cranes, right? So there's proof of cranes and there's proof of pulley systems. They have sleds. The sleds are in the museums. I've seen them. They're wooden. They're big wooden ones. So we know sleds are a thing. So the thing about the sleds is that, yeah, they're wooden and they don't look like they're designed for being dragged on sand. However, they do look like they could be dragged on a stone, like a flat stone surface. So those sleds will more likely be used while building the pyramid. So then that's where I came up with the whole ramp block theory. Not really a theory, since I proved that the shape ramp blocks exist. And the ramp blocks still physically exist on the pyramids. You can still see them on there. So the idea is you just need a stone block that has a 45-degree angle, or whatever degree you need, on one side. You'll move that block around and position it where you want it. Then you will pull using a sled. You have the stone on top of the sled, and you'll pull the sled and push the sled, right? Push and pull with pulleys and stuff like that, and people. and move the blocks up the ramp, up the block that's like a ramp, and the block is strong enough to support the block. Think about it, the pyramids is just blocks stacked on top of blocks, which means the blocks themselves have to be strong enough to be able to handle the weight of other blocks being put on top of them. So the idea of using blocks to help you lift these blocks is a simple way of doing it with less need for cranes and advanced technology and all this stuff. It's like just something as simple as a ramp, because it's just geometry. That's the thing, ancient humans understood geometry, which is an advanced concept. It's advanced, don't get me wrong, but it's not, they needed UFOs or cranes or flying devices or levitation technology, right, to lift up these blocks. That's why when people say, oh, how did they lift it? How did they lift it? Well, let's explain this specific question here. How a 70-ton block granite beam was lifted 90 feet in the air in the King's Chamber. Because I see that question a lot. Well, the thing you would do is you won't lift it up 90 feet. That's the thing you wouldn't do, because that'd be difficult to do. I agree that that's difficult. So you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't lift it up straight up, right? What you would do, however, is you will hold it up. You will hold up the 70-ton granite block. So this is where it gets interesting. What do I mean by holding it up? Well, you pull it up on a ramp, like I said, a ramp block, onto the first layer of the Great Pyramid. Then you'll slowly start building the second layer of the Great Pyramid. While you're building the second layer, once you have, the base second layer of the pyramid, you will do the ramp block thing again, right? And pull and place on top, right? Drag on top, however we want to call it, the 70-ton block. Now it's on the second level. So then you build the third level, and you do that ramp thing again. So the idea is that every time you build a level, the taller you build the pyramid, you just keep moving the block onto the next level, and the pyramid itself is helping you hold and lift, so to speak, hold up the block. So you're just, while you're building up, you're carrying up the pyramid. The block. So the pyramid itself, the pyramid is how you lift this 70-ton granite block 90 feet in the air, because the pyramid is going to be really tall. The pyramid is going to be over 90 feet tall. So you're going to use the pyramid itself to build itself. Because a lot of people like to think this, like, when the pyramid is being built, all the supply, all the materials is constantly being brought from the bottom and carried up to the top, or lifted to the top and stacked, lifted to the top and stacked, lifted to the top. No, you wouldn't do that. You would literally stack up and pile all the materials you need into the middle of the pyramid. And then while you're building the pyramid from outside in, making 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layers, you'll be lifting a lot of that material, the material you're going to use to build the top of the pyramid. You're going to carry it upwards on the pyramid. You're going to have a lot of the stuff you need to build the pyramid. So all the blocks to create the Queen's Chamber, the King's Chamber, all that was on top of the pyramid while it was slowly being built. It was on level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. And there's 12 levels of, for the Great Pyramid. So of course, every time you're going up the levels, you're lifting up a little bit the blocks while building the pyramid up. So the pyramid itself is lifting up the block, and then you just leave the block where you need. It's like, all right, we're on level 8. Now it's time to create the King's Chamber. So let's start putting all the blocks where they need to be for the King's Chamber. Now the King's Chamber is complete. Now let's keep building the pyramid until we get to the 12th level, and boom, the pyramid is done. And that's how you do it. It's common sense, but common sense is not as common as it used to be.